Okay, let's get right into it. The elementary school years. They're so much more than just learning your ABCs and times tables. They're this dramatic, emotional, and social quest. Seriously, think about it like a journey, where every single kid is the hero, trying to figure out their place in a brand new and sometimes kind of scary world.
Just think back for a second to when you first started school. What was the biggest, most jarring difference between being at home and being in that classroom? For most of us, it's the people. All of a sudden, a kid isn't just dealing with their family anymore. They're dropped into this sea of other kids and teachers, all with their own rules and expectations. It's a massive shift in their whole universe.
And that's really our starting point. Section 1, Entering a New World. This is the moment where the map of a child's life suddenly gets a whole lot bigger and way more complicated.
I mean, before school, a child's world is pretty small, right? It's mostly family, maybe a couple of kids on the block. But school? Whoa, that is a huge expansion. The influence of parents starts to, well, not disappear, but it definitely gets some competition. Teachers and peers become these incredibly important figures. And this new environment, it presents the central quest of childhood, figuring out, how do I fit in here?
And that challenge brings us to the core of this whole journey. In Section 2, we're going to look at what the psychologist Erik Erikson called the competence quest.
So between the ages of about 6 and 12, kids are in this super critical stage of development. Erikson gave it a name, industry versus inferiority. And the main event during this time? It's all about mastering skills. Kids have this deep, driving need to build things, to create, to accomplish.
And this stage, it's like a fork in the road with two very different paths. Success in mastering tasks, and we're talking about everything from long division to just being good at kickball, it builds what Erikson called industry. That's just a fancy word for a powerful feeling of competence, that I can do this feeling. But failure, or even just feeling like you're failing compared to everyone else, well, that can lead to a sense of inferiority that can really, really stick with you.
This is totally the I can do it myself stage. You know what I'm talking about. Kids in this phase take this enormous pleasure in finishing projects and showing everyone that they're capable and grown up. That feeling of accomplishment, that's the fuel that powers their entire development engine.
Okay, so now let's turn inward for a bit. Because all of these external experiences, the wins, the losses, the friendships, they're all building something absolutely crucial inside. And that's what Section 3 is about. A child's discovery of their self.
This brings us to a really important idea called self-concept. Now, this isn't just about what a kid can do, it's about who they believe they are. It's like their own internal summary of their strengths, weaknesses, and what they stand for. And during these elementary years, this self-concept goes through a mind-blowing transformation. Just look at this evolution here. It is fascinating. A little preschooler, they define themselves by what they have. I have a big red bike. Then you get to early elementary school and it shifts to what they can do. I'm good at drawing. But by late elementary school, it gets so much deeper, more abstract and internal. I am a helpful person. They're literally moving from a concrete understanding of themselves to an abstract one. So where does all this new self-knowledge come from? Well, a huge chunk of it comes from comparison. The classroom and the playground, they become the first real arenas where kids are constantly measuring themselves against their peers. Who's the fastest? Who's the smartest? Who's the funniest? This social comparison becomes a primary source for either building up or tearing down their self-esteem.
And that intense, constant focus on what other kids are doing leads us directly into our next part, Section 4, the awesome and sometimes overwhelming power of peers.
This quote from C. Wayne Gordon just captures the shift perfectly. If all the world's a stage, children and adolescents are playing primarily to an audience of their peers. He says their peers are sitting in the front rows and the box seats, while parents and teachers, they've been moved to the back rows and the balcony. And this is what he means. This group right here, their opinions, their acceptance, their laughter, suddenly matter more than almost anything else. Parents and teachers are still there for sure, but they've been moved to the balcony seats. From the kids' perspective, the real show is happening right here, with their friends.
So what are friends actually for at this age? I mean, it's about way more than just having someone to play with at recess. Friends become these critical emotional resources, a safe harbor when things get tough. They're also cognitive resources. Kids learn all sorts of skills from each other that they'd never learn from an adult. And maybe most importantly, friendship is the #1 training ground for learning complicated social rules and figuring out how to solve conflicts on your own.
Okay, so if the peers are now the main focus, where do adults even fit into this new world? That brings us to our final section, the takeaway for life. For parents, for teachers, for anyone who works with kids this age, the single most important word to remember is acceptance. Kids are going to figure out who's better at math or who's better at sports. The adult's job isn't to stop those comparisons from happening, because you can't. It's to help every child value their own unique skills and their own journey, no matter what.
So how can you put that acceptance into practice? It's pretty simple, actually. First, whenever you see good social behavior like helping or sharing, praise it. Make a big deal out of it. Second, model it yourself. Kids are always watching how you interact with other people. And third, be a coach. Don't just lecture them about what to do in a tricky social situation. Help them practice and give them some gentle feedback.
When you boil it all down, this whole elementary school journey is about a child trying to feel competent in a world that's suddenly dominated by their peers. So the big question for all of us, parents, teachers, everyone, is this: how can we help make sure that front row is a place of support and not just a place of judgment? Now that's a question really worth thinking about.